Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, my returning guest is Carmen Turner-Schott. Carmen is an author, a licensed clinical social worker, psychological astrologer, and teacher with national and international clientele. She is a published author of 8 books, and a few of her latest are Sun Signs, Houses and Healing, Moon Signs, Houses and Healing, and Phoenixes and Angels, Mastering the 8th and the 12th Astrological Houses. Carmen has been researching the 8th and 12th astrological houses and trauma healing and transformation for the past 25 years, and she believes that everyone can benefit from understanding what makes them feel happy, passionate, and emotionally fulfilled. Carmen is now a talk show host on YouTube, and all of the links are below in the description box. Today, we're going to discuss her books and her podcast, which is called Deep Soul Divers Astrology. Thanks for liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with your friends. Carmen, welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I always find everything you have to say very inspirational. I love your books. And there's what amazes me is, like, I've picked up astrology books before and I've tried reading them and they make no sense to me. They're too complicated, or maybe my brain just doesn't work that way. So I always just kind of looked up, my astrological sign in the newspaper or whatever and went on that, which is pretty vague and superficial. But then when I read your book, I don't have it ready. Oh, yes, I do, right here. Hang on. Sorry.
No worries.
This one.
Oh, yes.
Sign, Houses and Healings. I was amazed at how well you were able to explain everything. So for the first time, I really, really got it. And although I was kind of amused by astrology before, I never realized how deeply significant it is in our daily lives.
Yes, it really is. And that is a special book to me because that was the first book that I ever had a publisher publish. So I had some books I had self-published, but that's my first published book, Sun Signs, Houses and Healing, and Build Resilience and Transform Your Life Through Astrology. And it's a long title that they picked, but I definitely wanted to touch on how astrology can help us heal, and also how knowing your sun sign, just the basics, can help you be resilient and strong, and to tap into your personality strengths to overcome, life change, crisis, divorce, loss of a loved one. There's all these special abilities that each sun sign has, in their personality and in their identity. And, in astrology, the sun represents your will, your main expression into the world, how people see you, how you interact with people openly. That's the sun. It's where you shine, and whatever sign it's in, you're going to have those personality traits. And then whatever house that the sun is in, which in the book I talk about, that's where your main personality traits are going to be seen and expressed in your world. So if your sun is in the 10th house, you're going to really shine and want to show who you are in your career, in your work with the public. And then if your sun sign is in the 7th house of intimate partnerships and marriage, you're going to want to have a relationship. Like, your identity is going to really need to have a partner to feel whole. So, and so all those basic things can help you understand yourself and others. And you can look up your friends and family. And in the introduction, I talk a lot about the basics. What are these symbols first? What does it all mean? And what are the houses? What does it mean? What are the planets in each sign? And then you get to look up each of the 12 signs have their own chapter. And so I really love the Sun Signs book. It's one of my favorites, and I'm trying to market it more because I feel like it's very easy to understand, and I just wish more people would buy it because it's out there, and it's basic and practical, but it's down to earth, and I just wish that more people would buy that book. I'm not selling a lot of that book. So I'm really wishing people would look into it that are wanting to learn, the basics.
Yes. And I highly recommend it because, like I said, it really helped me to understand what astrology was all about. And I love the tips for self-care because I think that unless we have a good self-care program, it's really hard to have a sustainable life and to be happy and to do the things we want to do. And so self-care is something super important. And yet each of us, depending on, like you said, our sun sign, depends on what kind of self-care is very specific to what we need. So I recommend everybody go and get that book. It is fantastic. You'll never ever be sorry, and you're going to want to loan it to your friends and get them to buy it too. And the other one that's sort of a companion to it is the Moon Sign book. Do you want to tell us a bit about that one?
Yes, the companion guide, it's for sure a companion. It's Moon Signs, Houses, and Healing. Gain emotional strength and resilience through astrology. That book just released this past summer. So that is my second book that came out with Llewellyn. And so there's two main things when you start studying astrology that I recommend that listeners do. And I recommend that they learn about their sun sign, number one. And then number two is they need to know where their moon sign is, because the sun is your main identity, but the moon is just as important, if not more so, because the moon is your inner nature, your emotions. It's where you find happiness, emotional fulfillment, safety, security, comfort, all of these magical, important things, is the moon. And it's where you really are vulnerable and how you are in your soul, inside. So to really know someone's moon sign, for them to show you that side of them, they got to trust you. And so, you always see people's outer appearance, their sun first. And then when you get to really know someone, you're like, oh, you're really a lot different than I thought. Like, you're more sensitive, and that's when you start getting connected to people and what their moon is, their moon sign. And the moon, I kind of talk about it in the book, that I link it with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. And I talk, and what I realized is that the moon is such a deep inner part of us, and it really shows where you have to find security and where you have to have comfort and peace and harmony in your life in order to express your feelings and emotions. And because if you don't feel safe, number one, on Maslow's hierarchy needs is safety and security needs, right? If you don't have a roof over your head, if you don't have money to pay your bills, if you don't have food, the basic things, it's going to be hard to ever, reach and connect with your soul, or, things that are your creativity or your hobbies, because you're trying to survive in the real world. So all of us need those security and basic needs, but some moon signs need them more than others. Some moon signs, that is the most important thing to them to have. And once they have that security and the financial, the money, they own their home or they have a good job, then they can start expanding and seeking why they're here and helping others and all this. And some moon signs don't really care about security. They're all about change, and they just want to be mentally stimulated. They want to learn, they want to travel, they want to explore, be creative, they want to be spiritual. So they're on a journey, and they could care less if they could be a nomad, living in a trailer, driving through different parts of the country, or living in hostels in Europe. There, some people's moon signs, they're free spirits, more adventurous, and they're more about social, networking, socializing, having friends and family and people to hang out with, and groups, and that's those social needs of the hierarchy. Some signs, I find that the fire and air moons tend to really need that social part of the pyramid more. And then the water and earth moons, especially the earth moons, they need that security and comfort and that practical stuff dealt with first before they can go out and really, move up the ladder, so to speak, in self-actualization. But I kind of connect that, and that kind of falls into self-care, because the moon sign is really how we're going to nurture and heal ourselves, and how we're going to self-care. So like if someone has a water moon, like the moon is in Cancer or Pisces or Scorpio, I find that when I do charts or I'm doing counseling with someone, I'm like, you really need to go and be by the water. If they're really struggling, or they're really unsettled, or they're really, emotionally upset about something, and they're like, you're right, that always makes me feel calmer. Or take a bath, or soak in a hot tub, or, just go look at a pond, or walk by a creek, whatever they got to do in nature can help them really heal and ground themselves and connect with that moon. So I talk about that in the book too, for each moon sign. And the moon sign is really important because the moon moves through each sign every 2 to 3 days in the sky. So when you're born, everyone knows everyone born on August 26th is going to be a sun sign Virgo. Okay. Everybody born on, January 22nd, 23rd is going to be an Aquarius. We know the sun is in that sign for a whole month. And so we know, oh, this is Scorpio season, or this is Cancer season. Oh yeah, we're the same sun sign. But to really know where your moon sign is, you have to know your time of birth is important, but especially the date, month, and year. And in that way, you can go online on astro.com or type in moon calculator, which I talk about in the moon sign intro. And you can just put your birth date and year, and it'll tell you what sign the moon was in when you were born, even if you don't know the exact time. Now, there might be certain situations where the moon was getting ready to change into the next sign. So you'd be like a cusper is what we call it. Your moon is on the cusp. So you may feel like if your moon is on the cusp of Leo and Virgo, you might feel like you have emotional traits of both Leo and Virgo. Same with if the sun sign is on a cusp, which means it's on that cutoff date, right? And that's, if you're looking up at the sky from Earth, that's when the sun will move into the next star constellation, or the moon will move into the next star constellation. And it's like we take a picture of the sky and we put it on a piece of paper, and then we make it into a wheel, and we put symbols on it, and we analyze it. So it's real simple when you think of it that way. It's like, what's really going on up there, and we just put it on a piece of paper, and we make a map of it, and then we interpret it. But the moon sign can switch, every 2 to 3 days. So it's important to know, know your moon sign, so you know what's going on and everything. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it sure is. So so those two books are companion books, and I really recommend everybody check them out. And they're available everywhere on Amazon and everywhere, right, Carmen?
Yes.
And then, hi guys, break time for a short message. YouTube will not monetize me, so if you enjoy my content and want to support my efforts, help me to cover my expenses by visiting my shop to buy yourself a beautiful orgone generator. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand, and they are ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. Many people are finding comfort with Zendome's orgone generators, commonly called Orgonite. They are a simple compound which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They are a simple compound with alchemic and energetic properties. These devices function as self-driven, continuously operating, highly efficient, negative to positive energy transmutation factories. They help diminish the harmful effects of electromagnetic frequency radiation by attracting and converting negative energies, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. And they help to purify the atmosphere and accelerate plant growth. They also help stimulate positive mood and are a natural remedy for poor sleep patterns. When Orgonite is within range of any corded or wireless electronic device, it will efficiently and continuously transform that energy into orgone, as it is being transmitted. This essentially creates orgone energy transmitters out of any and all emitters of harmful negative energy. You can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. Check them out today. Now, let's get back to the show. So, Carmen, just for the viewers and the listeners to know, Carmen is taken a neighbor to a medical appointment, and she may have to cut out early. And I said, that's totally okay. So, Carmen, you just let me know and just say, oh, my friend needs me to go get her, and we'll end the show. But I just want to give everyone a heads up so they don't wonder what's going on. This may not be a real long show today, but it's definitely worth doing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, they just texted me that they're going to be out a little early, so we can go for a little bit longer for sure. And then
okay, but you let me know.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Sure.
Maybe 10 minutes, 10 more minutes or so. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm hoping we have time for you to get into the Phoenix book.
Oh, yes.
Because that was super interesting.
Yes. My passion has been researching the 8th and 12th houses in astrology. And those are the two most spiritual houses in astrology, because the 8th house rules death, transformation, rebirth, healing, other people's resources, psychology, counseling, anything that's deep and mystical. And the 12th house rules cosmic consciousness and escapism, oneness with God, finding a spiritual path, all of these service to others, all of these very mystical things. So I call people that have planets in the 12th house or 8th house, I call them 12th housers and 8th housers. And I call people that have 12th house planets, like the sun, moon, or 3 or more planets in that house, I call them angels. And then people that have planets in the 8th house, I call them phoenixes. And if you think of the symbolism, a phoenix symbol is the 8th house symbol, which is all about rebirth and being born strong and resilient. So to me, the 8th house is one of the most resilient houses in the chart to have planets in. Like if your sun or moon is there, it's very important. Or if you have 3 or more planets there, we call that a stellium. And that means that the energy of that house is gonna be very strong in your personality, and it's very important. And then 12th house, I associate them with angels. So they're all about helping others, and they kind of tell me, I've did thousands of charts, and I started seeing this pattern where they feel like they're not from Earth. They tell me, I feel like I'm an alien. I feel like I'm adopted. Like I feel like my family, I'm not like any of them. Why am I so different? And all of those kind of things. And I started realizing they feel like they are not from Earth. They're like angels, because they're very compassionate and kind and sensitive and very empathic people that have psychic abilities in this natural intuition from a young age, but no one ever told them what it was. And that's kind of what happened to me, having 12th and 8th house planets. I knew I was different, and I knew I would dream things that would happen. I would know things. I was intuitive, but I wasn't raised to believe in these things. So I just always was born knowing that there's more to life, and I was interested in astrology and started studying it at 16 and started doing my chart. And I'm like, ooh, I got all this 12th house and 8th house. And I started researching it then for fun, doing charts on people through graduate school. And I started doing my small side business when I was 19. And I just started doing astrology's always been a part-time job for me, doing consults since I was 19. And then I went to become a normal social worker, in the real world. And I always did both. And I always would see, what someone's birthday was. And even if I didn't tell them I'm doing your chart, I would know their sun sign. I would know their moon sign just from the date, month, and year, when you work with people. And I would like, oh, wow. And I would see these patterns play out in therapy and counseling with teens, with children, and with trauma survivors. I've worked a lot with people with PTSD that have lost loved ones or experienced some type of trauma at a young age, whether it was sexual abuse or sexual assault or losing a loved one at a young age or a parent, all kinds of things. And I started seeing that a lot of those people had eighth house planets. People that lost a parent at a young age, I started seeing this pattern, or lost a friend or loved one. And so I started collecting research. And now I do what quantitative studies of, I'll randomly select 50 people, say, hey, send me your chart, answer these 5-6 questions, and tell me if these patterns fit for the 12th house and the 8th house. And I did that. And that's what kind of inspired me to write the book, Phoenixes and Angels, Mastering the 8th and 12th Astrological Houses, because I wanted to share people's stories in real life, real stories from real people that have experienced having a chart with planets in the 8th and 12th. So I share their stories, and I share a lot of my own experiences in the book with my dreams, because the 12th house rules dreams too, and sleep and lucid dreaming. A lot of times in astral travel, and people that have 12th house planets, one of the patterns is psychic dreams. And I started realizing I am not an alien or different. When I started my 12th house astrology group on Facebook back in 2012, I realized, oh my gosh, everyone on here has dreamed of the future. I'm not different. We're all alike, and then you feel like you're not alone. And so that's why I use my groups to really connect with people, to support them, and to know. And it's all free. We all comment and help each other and analyze charts in there. No one charges. It's a support group. And it's been like that. And I try to keep it very sacred. Both my groups, the 8th house and 12th house, are on Facebook. Love listeners to join. And I screen, so you have to answer the questions. And, you can say you listen to this podcast, and I'll prove you to be a member. And you can share with us. And if you want to know if you're 8th or 12th house, or the group can help you, how to do a chart and all that stuff. But I started researching those two houses because I realized that most people that came to me or had a lot of trauma and a lot of spiritual experiences, unexplained experiences, they had planets in these two houses. I mean, it just gives you chills, because people are like, how did you know that? I'm like, it's your chart. And I started realizing, wow, this is a powerful tool that can validate people's life experiences. So I wanted to share that in the Phoenixes and Angels book. And I talk about the patterns, about the different things of each house, what it means to have a planet in those houses, and then just some of my client, experiences, and also tips for healing, because 8th house people have a lot of trauma, because the 8th house rules trauma, but it also rules healing from the trauma. So people become, counselors or Reiki masters, or, doctors, or psychologists, people that have 8th house planets. And that's because the energy of Scorpio is the sign that rules the 8th house. And Scorpio is all about transformation and rebirth and digging deep, and everything's deep and intense, right? And emotional. And so that's 8th house. And I realized, wow, as a counselor, I can bring my trauma training skills, whether it's body grounding, mindfulness, the Havening technique, which is something that I got trained in, whereas these different motions that you do to calm your amygdala. And and I do this with people, you do these little just 3 little touches, and I'll be on a phone call doing a chart, and I've had people get triggered, because when you're dealing with people with 8th house planets and helping them, they're going to share really intense things with you. And a lot of them had multiple traumas, and they can get emotional. And sometimes I've had people call me on Facebook Messenger from my groups, and they were having struggling. And I'll say, okay, stop everything, just breathe. And then I would lead them what to do, to do the different motions to calm themselves, to help with the trauma centers. And so I bring that into my astrology consultations, my counseling tools.
Wonderful.
And that's what I do. I bring it. It's a very practical session with me. I'm not getting into this is this degree and this is this and, degree and this, arc. And no, I'm very psychological. I call myself a psychological astrologer. And so I'm really a counselor that uses astrology as a tool of self-awareness and to validate some of your life experiences. So you know that you're not a victim. You chose to be born when you're born. We choose to come into the earth realm at a certain time, place, and when the energy is right for our karma. We choose our parents, even though I know people don't like to hear that. I tell them I know we do, because we know what learning we have to have. And people are like, I would never choose my parents. And I'm like, but you did, and this is why. And then once I start telling, they're like, oh, I can see why. Okay. And then, I open up their eyes to things maybe they didn't know or see in their life. And I just validate what they already know, really, in their heart, deep down. And so I use that to really help people, get deeper and know themselves, and know other people and understand other people. I do relationship compatibility consults. I do parent-children reports. I help parents understand, their teens or their adult children. And we can, in astrology, you can look at, you can see what careers are good for you, what relationships are good for you, what kind of partners are compatible. What kind of signs would be good for you to have a relationship with, right? Business partnership, your health, where you're vulnerable with your health. And then we look at what's called transits, and transit charts are really what's affecting us right now. And they can affect us for many years, depending on what planet we're looking at, because there's some planets transit through each area of life for like 12 to 14 years. I mean, that's a long time that like your home and family life may be shook up, right? And so I just validate. I'm like, okay, tell me what's been going on. Then I pull it up. I'm like, okay, you have Pluto going through your fourth house. Pluto's a planet of change, complete cataclysmic transformation. So it's also the planet of death and rebirth. So sometimes there's a loss of a loved one when Pluto transits the fourth. And then it also, whenever a planet transits one area of life, one house, it also affects the opposite house. And that would be the career house. So your career and home and family will be uprooted and shaken up, and there'll be changes and loss, but also healing and growth. So there's always the yin yang, right? The positive and negative energy in astrology. There's always both. It's not always bad, but sometimes there are some more challenging aspects, that happen. But I love it. I love being on your show, and I love to come back again. I hate that I have to cut out early today, but I absolutely love talking astrology with you. And I have, I have a new book coming out, which we could talk about, next time. When I come on, I could even
absolutely.
I can bring Bernie Ashman on. He co-authored it with me. We wrote it together. He's a astrologer friend of mine. He's been an astrologer since the 1980s. And we're really the mentor. He created astrology software, all kinds of stuff. And he's an eighth houser. And he was in my eighth house group. That's how I met him and found his books. And we wrote a book together called Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon. And it comes out in August 2024. It's out for pre-order right now on Amazon, the paperback version. The Kindle comes out a little bit later towards the release date, but it'll be on both. But it's all about the nodes of the moon. It can get a little complex, but basically they are your soul mission and your past lives. So the North Node is where your soul is going and what your soul mission is this lifetime. And it looks like headphones. It's like a little horseshoe thing, it looks like little headphones with the top up, and then headphones upside down. Like if you're hanging them this way is the South Node. And the South Node is where you've already been. So in astrology, we would say it's your past lives, which your soul has already learned. If you don't believe in past lives, it's still like your old behavior patterns, things that in the past that you're used to doing. And we're meant to give up and let go of the South Node traits and embrace the North Node traits, which takes our whole life to do. And by the time we're 60, 62, I'd say 61, 62, everyone is in their North Node doing what their soul came here to do naturally. So the universe is going to force us into it, kicking and screaming, or by shocking us and pulling the rug out, or we can start realizing, okay, what's my North Node sign and what house is it in? And I tell myself every day I wake up, I know I'm a North Node Scorpio. So I say, what do I have to do to be a Scorpio today? Every day I ask myself that, because it is not where you're comfortable. You're like, I'm never going to be like this. I remember saying, I'm never going to be a Scorpio. How am I ever going to? Because I was so different than that energy, my personality. And as I got older, now it scares me, because I'm like, wow, I am becoming a Scorpio. Like, it's like I'm wiser. I have a thicker skin. I'm stronger emotionally than I was when I was younger. So you go through, life changes you. And that's what the North Node does. So I always tell people, know your North Node sign, because you're meant to master being that sign. And then you're learning to balance that sign with the South Node sign. And you have to balance them both and incorporate them. So it's not like you're completely giving up your South Node, because it's your inner self. It's your soul. You can't, I'm always going to be a Taurus in my soul, but I have to give up my stubbornness and my resistance of change and my need for comfort and security at all costs, for growth and transformation and spirituality and taking risks. All these things that I don't really like to do, I'm forced to do it in the real world. And then you look at what house the node is in, and that's where you're meant to shine that energy and express it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's the third house, which is talking, communication, radio, writing, all of these things, teaching about astrology on a basic level in a deep way. That's my node. So I'm trying to do it by being on, your show and different things I'm doing with my books. So.
And your podcast. Do you have time to quickly tell the folks about your podcast before you go?
Sure. I have some exciting news too. So right now I have a show that I started in, I believe it was August, and it's called Deep Soul Divers Astrology, and it's on BBS Radio TV. It's the second and fourth Saturdays of every month at 12 p.m. Central. It's streamed live on BBS Facebook page, on my YouTube, on my Facebook, Deep Soul Divers Astrology business page and then also there's a link. But if you follow me, on Facebook, Instagram, I post a lot of when I'm going to be on my show and what guest I'm going to have on. And I've been having a lot of authors and people to talk about astrology. So if I have someone on, I always do their chart and I link, their chart with what they're doing and the conversation with astrology mixed in. And I'm doing that. And I'm actually going to be starting a new show, which I can't say a lot about right now, but it's going to kick off in January. And that is going to be a whole new name and a whole new show. And it'll be every Saturday for a whole year. I'm doing this thing starting in January. So when I get closer, I'll let you know. And I would love to have people call in. I can take live calls on both shows right now. On the BBS, you can call in with your chart if you have a question. The next show is actually this Saturday, and it's going to be about Venus, the planet of love and relationships. And anyone can call in and ask us, about their Venus sign. It has to do with what partners you might attract, how you are in love and relationships and things like that. And we'd love for you to call in. And I've been marketing it on my social medias. So if you go on Facebook, my Instagram, I market it. And we'd love you to go to my website, carmenturnerschott.com. And all my books are on there. All my books are on Amazon. And I have classes and workshops, if you're interested. And you can message me, reach out, and I would love to connect with you, if you're listening to this, and love to come back and get more into the nodes of the moon and explain that maybe next time, and maybe bring Bernie with me or something. We can both be on. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Carmen, I know you have to go early, so I don't want to keep you too long. I want to thank you for all your wisdom. You're amazing. You really open the doors of understanding for so many people. And you're a very loving and compassionate person. And I'm just so grateful that you're here on this planet doing the work that you do, making this world a better place for everybody. And I wish you the very, very best. And yes, I'll reach out to you again, either later in the year or in the new year, and have you on and have your co-author on. It would be wonderful.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me. Sorry I got to go early,
No,
but
it's
thank
okay.
you.
It's okay. My pleasure. I want to thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all our guests, our viewers, and our listeners for joining us today on the Quantum Guide Show. And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.